The views and opinions expressed on this program are not necessarily those of this station, JVC Broadcasting Management, or its sponsors.
The New York Nonprofit Press, the industry standard for nonprofits, is a must-read for over 20,000 New York City and state executives. Those who know the nonprofit world count on the NYNP to deliver breaking news and get messages across into the nonprofit industry. Ads can be placed in our paper, daily emails, or on our website. For more information, visit nynp.biz or email publisher at nynp.biz. The New York Nonprofit Press, serving people who serve people.
Good morning. This is Ron Gold from Marketing Works. The name of the show is The Nonprofit Voice, and each week we put on a different agency. And this week we are lucky enough to have ACLD, one of the largest agencies on Long Island. And we have Rob Ciatto, who is the COO now and soon to be the CEO. Is that right? Or is it the CEO, right?
That's
Congratulations.
correct. Thank you. Good morning.
Rob's had a great past with AHRC in Nassau, and he was working with Robert Goldsmith. And when Robert Goldsmith came over as a CEO, he brought his best employee with him, Rob Ciatto. Rob, welcome to the world of agencies doing business in a time of COVID. I mean, if anything is going to get you to learn the business quickly and really put you into a dire need, you were prepared for it, too. Most people weren't. You know, when we had that conversation yesterday and we were talking about, you foresaw this coming in some way that you prepared the agency for it. I think that's remarkable. How did you do that?
Well, I have a great director of nursing. Her name is Faith Mazzone. And in November, December, we had some meetings, and she was monitoring this unknown virus in China.
Really?
And she brought it to our attention, and she said, you know what, we need to start to prepare because I think something may come our way. And at that time, at the end of November, December, we started purchasing PPE equipment. Masks, gowns, face shields. We started prepping the residential program with certain guidelines that we wanted to put in place, which were basically a modification of most of the guidelines that you have in place, like for the flu and things like that. And then it happened.
But at the time when you were getting the equipment and getting the masks, they weren't at the same price they are now, right?
That's correct. Well, the prices now have been fluctuating a bit. So the prices that are kind of going on now is where we were getting them at back in November, December. And then when February, March came along, the prices, quadrupled.
So when you started getting all the masks and other safety equipment, where did you put them? Did you give them to people, or were you just holding them until the right time?
We set up one of our office locations as a storage unit initially. We have over 40 homes in the community, and that's really what we were concentrating on, stockpiling the PPE equipment for, as well as our nursing staff. So we dedicated an office, and we had some stuff there. And then as we started to need to delegate them out, we needed to obviously order a lot more. We opened up a crisis unit, which I'll talk about in a little bit. And then we rented a storage facility to try to stockpile as many PPEs as we can get. Because the burn rates, when you have over 1,300 employees and providing masks and things like that, go relatively quickly.
1,300 employees, but how many that are working with the homes itself? You said you have 41 homes, right?
Yes. So what happened during the height of the crisis, OPWDD issued orders to close your day programs. So we closed our day programs in the middle of March, and all of the staff from the day programs were then deployed to the residential program. So the residential program had their normal amount of staff, and then they had the day program staff. And that in itself is close to 900 staff when you go across all of the day programs and all of the residential programs, obviously at different times and different shifts.
So the day habs were closed first. That was the first thing they closed. And I guess right after that, the offices closed and people started working remotely.
Well, what we did was, yes, we closed the day program as per the edict from, all the local governments. After that, we reduced the office staff to about 10%. Now, I myself was going in every day throughout.
Really?
The pandemic.
Wow.
And I had some of my key staff with me as a central hub and making sure we were coordinating everything. It was, pretty chaotic because no one knew what was going on. And you had families calling about their loved ones. You had families from the community calling about what's going to happen with the future of their day program or what supports can we put in place there. You were monitoring all of the local government edicts that were coming out and what you have to do. You were revising policy and procedure. And you were basically just trying to keep people as safe as you can in an environment where there was such unknown and a lot of panic.
So out of the 41 homes that you had, it's very tough to keep masks on people, especially with special needs. They can't breathe and they rip it off and things like that. Did you have any major problems?
One of the things that we did proactively right before we closed the day program in March, and I would say at the end of February, beginning of March, we kind of locked down the houses. We stopped a lot of the recreational outdoor activities that were like in movies and things like that when they were still open at the time. We then really tried to have only people congregate for meal times. We would set up their bedrooms to provide a lot of activities, so we would limit a lot of the exposure for the individuals from the staff. You have 3 different shifts, and those staff are coming in and out.
Right.
And in that time, you don't know what's going on when they go home or what happens wherever they are. Could they get exposed to the virus? So we started providing PPEs for the staff that worked in the houses, gowns and masks and things like that. We had the individuals, for the most part, stay in their bedrooms or go to communal areas that were able to distance them apart at a decent amount. That helped control some of the spread within the program. We do have a lot of our individuals that are employed, and we had individuals that contracted the virus based on where they were employed.
Right.
Supermarkets, Target, that kind of stuff. So we really had to take a really proactive way of trying to decrease the spread. So at that time, we weren't mandating the individuals to wear masks. We were taking temperatures 3 times a day. All of our staff were in full PPE. We put in cleaning protocols within the homes. We started changing out the HVAC systems, air purifiers, all the things that cost us 4 times the amount that it would cost me today. We wanted to put in the houses to, number one, control the spread of the virus, because we do have a very vulnerable population.
And you're proactive, which is great. But look at all these expenses that you've been adding up, and you're not getting the money back. Not yet. And you had told me that you're up for a grant, but it hasn't been given out yet.
That's correct. We, to date, probably have spent a little bit over $1 million on PPE equipment and additional things that were needed just to have our day-to-day lives to the best of our ability. As for the public, there were limited supplies in places for paper towels and toilet paper, and we were getting bulk orders of that, and the amount of money we were spending was twice as much because the prices went up.
Yeah.
We've invested a lot of money, but in my world, in my philosophy, you cannot put a price on safety, especially when it comes to people's lives.
That's right. And I wish more people would think that way, because it's so true. Talk about the Dayhab programs, because they were being done remotely also, right? They were done with the Zoom.
Yeah, what was happening was that when the day programs closed, most of the people that resided in your residential program that attend your own day program had day program staff working with them. The state provided agencies with what you call a retainer rate, and that was to retain staff. So they were providing us revenue based on if we were operating normally. But then they stopped it. And when they stopped it, we've had little areas to gain that revenue loss that we've been experiencing. So we did a lot of checking in with all the people that live in the community on a daily basis. We did do some FaceTiming with them, some Zoom meetings with them. We touched base with the families. But at that time, it was the height heightened of when New York was going through its worst, and we really limited engagement for the most part 100% physically. We did a lot of things via remote and via telephone and via tele to make sure that those families were okay and those individuals were okay. We did not want to expose any staff or anything into that situation because, again, you can't control those variables. I don't know where that person works or what supermarket they went to.
Right.
Whereas in our homes, though our staff are coming in and out, they're essential workers, and thank God for them, because if we didn't have our direct support professionals, we would have had much more serious issues than we had. And we had some serious issues, to begin with. So we did our best making sure that the day program staff and the families were being taken care of. But our main focus was really on the residential program and the medical issues that started to come up at the height of the pandemic.
We're talking to Rob Ciatto, Chief Operating Officer at ACLD. And the subject that I want to bring up to you is something that's more of an expense also, is the fundraising that you do every year. And the kind of money that you make off the fundraising is basically lost. So we look at the amount of money that you spent on PPE and other safety precautions you had to take and what's continuing to cost. But you're also looking at lost revenue. So that's not easy for you to take.
Absolutely. Most of our in-person fundraising activities this year have been canceled. We have gone to some virtual fundraising, but the virtual fundraising gives you a tenth of what you usually fundraise when you have an in-person event, like a golf outing or a gala that we basically have postponed. We're hopefully and anticipating gearing up for even better ones next year as we hopefully get better as a community and as a state. But yes, there is loss of fundraising dollars with that. What's nice about ACLD is that we don't rely on any of that fundraising money to run our programs. We work within our budgets and where our revenue is from the programs to do that. However, the fundraising dollars that we do fundraise go to the intangibles, like giving people a vacation or giving people a day in the city to go to a Broadway play that may not necessarily have the means. We have turned a lot of our efforts from the golf outing and the gala and things like that to a COVID relief fund. Our foundation, the ACLD Foundation, is strongly committed to continuing to try to raise as much money as we can to offset any expenses that we may have or may incur in the future outside of the program expenses.
Are you finding that people are donating to you more now for just pure donations than they ever did before? Or haven't you made that kind of a commitment yet?
It's a combination. There's a mixed group. We have certain donors that understand the situations that agencies like ourselves are in, and continue to donate what they usually would donate for a golf outing or for a gala, as if it was happen. But then we've had certain donors that have had to pull back because of their own financial constraints based on the virus. So it is a combination of both. We appreciate everybody's assistance. We had a nice wine tasting virtual event through Sparkling Point, which was a success. It was our first crack at a virtual event, and I think Amy Keegan did a great job setting it up, and we thank everybody that participated in it. We are setting up another virtual event that's going to come out soon, and we'll get that information out. But like everybody, we're in the same boat. This is uncharted territory and uncharted waters that we're in reference to fundraising. But I try to stay positive, and I try to look at the positives in it, that when we do get back to normal, and I know we will, we'll now have other venues to fundraise in via virtual, as well as our in-live events.
Wow. It's just amazing. When I see the agencies doing the virtual events now, I'm finding that the more they do, the better they get at it. It was like the first time we did one. It was, can we do $10,000? Gee, I hope so. And we found that people, if you're doing it for an event or at an event time, like if you did a golf outing and you didn't do it this year because of COVID, we did, one of my agencies did a virtual golf. Wasn't really a virtue. They had auction items and raffles, and they gave away $5,000, and they raised a lot of money that way. And we found that the people that were giving them sponsorship dollars in the past gave them sponsorship dollars this year, but only like 50% of what they would normally do. But 50% is better than nothing on that. So some of the things they found that they could do virtually, they're going to continue to do in the future. So maybe next year when they have a golf outing, they'll have the golf outing, but they'll have the auction separate online, because now instead of just being an auction for the people that are at the golf outing, it could be an auction for everybody. So now they have more chances to make more money.
Yeah, even though our in-person golf outing was postponed, we did do the auction for the golf outing virtually as well. Good. So, and we've done that a little bit in the past. To me, my personal opinion is when you have in live events and you could speak to people and interact with people, they're not just buying into your agency, they're buying into you.
Right.
And sometimes virtually you don't get that connection. But I agree. I think, virtually is something that is going to continue to expand for all providers, not just ACLD. But I do hope that the in-person activities happen just as good, if not even better, because I think one of the things that the virus has shown us, as well as everything else that's going on in our world, is that we do need to work together. We do need unity. We do need to have a common goal and a common cause. And our mission at ACLD is to provide enviable lives for people, to provide quality services. And the more people that are involved in that, the better off the people that we support are.
What's interesting I work with a lot of different agencies. And we see each of our clients maybe once a month or maybe twice a month. We would go to the pre-COVID. Then we set up during the COVID that we would have Zoom meetings with everybody every week just to keep. And it worked out better. I did more for the clients at that time than we did with the in-person. So I think in the future, it's going to be a combination of both. It's good to keep in touch with the clients, but everybody was working remotely anyway, so it was a matter of getting everybody online for that.
Yeah, we have been able to, even throughout the whole pandemic, still ensure that our day-to-day operations have happened. Like I said, I was going to work and some of my key administrators were there with me every day, and we were still able to make sure that we were doing the day-to-day stuff, as well as managing the pandemic and managing all the things that would happen from a day-to-day perspective that come up that you usually don't prepare for, whether that be additional phone calls from families or additional phone calls from providers. The provider associations, the Long Island Alliance, the Interagency Council had weekly meetings that all the providers were a part of to share stories and to come up with different ideas, as well as to discuss the funding cuts that OPWDD was proposing and was implementing. Because when all is said and done, we're all here for one cause.
But ACLD didn't cut anybody. They kept paying everybody completely.
One of the things I'm most proud of being one of the leaders of the organization is throughout the entire pandemic to today, we have not furloughed one of our staff members. We have continued to pay everybody their full salaries, whether they worked 1 day a week, remotely 3 days a week, or didn't work at all. We have a lot of our individuals that we support that are on cleaning crews that clean our buildings as well as outside buildings. And we continued to pay them even though they weren't coming in and cleaning the buildings.
Is this supported employment?
That's through supportive employment, yes. So we didn't furlough anybody. We continued to pay everybody. We continued to make sure that our workforce was whole. We looked at what was going on in our industry as well as outside of our industry. And we knew how difficult this was for people. And we know, obviously, the unemployment rates continued to go up. We did have staff members that unfortunately got sick. We did have staff members that did not want to come back to work. It was their decision, but there were always positions there for them. And it's something that I know I am most proud of, is the fact that we really did the best we can for the staff, because without the staff, we don't have an agency.
Did anyone leave because they could make more money on unemployment?
We have a group of staff called the per diem pool, and their per diem staff that either work in the residential day or the day program, but they don't have a set schedule. So they're not considered a full-time or a part-time employee. They kind of make their own schedule up based on open shifts that are in those programs. Because you're a per diem employee, you qualify for unemployment with all the unemployment laws that changed. Mm-hmm. And everything. So we did have a lot of our per diem staff members begin to collect unemployment because they could get more money based on the increase from the government. We have a pool of 187 per diem staff, and over 50% of them went on unemployment. Now that is an additional cost to the organization.
Yeah, right.
So it's not just a cost of PPEs or loss of revenue because you cannot run your programs fully. You have all the miscellaneous costs like unemployment. And our employment went up 300% in what we had to pay out.
We're talking to Rob Ciatto from ACLD, and we'll be back after a short break.
The New York Nonprofit Press, the industry standard for nonprofits, is a must-read for over 20,000 New York City and state executives. Those who know the nonprofit world count on the NYNP to deliver breaking news and get messages across into the nonprofit industry. Ads can be placed in our paper, daily emails, or on our website. For more information, visit nynp.biz or email publisher@nynp.biz. The New York Nonprofit Press, serving people who serve people.
Good morning. This is Ron Gold from Marketing Works. The name of the show is The Nonprofit Voice. I'm sitting with Rob Ciatto, Chief Operating Officer at ACLD, soon to be the CEO. Robert Goldsmith has been there a while. He's done a magnificent job. What's it like to work with him?
Well, I've been with Bob for about 12 years, from my previous employment at Nassau to my current employment here at ACLD. And the one thing that I think best describes Bob is that he's driven. He's driven for the causes that he believes in. And one of the causes that he believes in is the mission of ACLD, and to make lives better for the people that we support. He is extremely dedicated. He's someone that's compassionate, that truly cares about the staff and cares about the people that live in our homes and go to our day programs. I've been able to learn a lot over the years of working with him.
Well, since he came over, and people he brought with him, mostly people from the Nassau group, its culture has changed so much. I mean, seeing the agency as long as I have and working with people and knowing people there, I just feel the difference since he's been there.
Yeah, I think one of the things that we wanted to create together as a unit with the extended executive staff is to really change the culture a little bit. One of the things that he instilled is really an open door, full transparency process to really teach the staff to review things with the board of directors, to review things with families, to not keep anything away from anybody, and really to educate people, to ensure that people had a voice, to ensure that people understood what we were talking about and the direction that we were going in. And by attrition, that changes the culture. When people feel more empowered, they feel more comfortable. When they feel more comfortable, they develop more relationships with you. And our industry is based on relationships. It's based on how you work and interact with your coworkers, with your peers, with your supervisors, with families. And I'm a big proponent of you establish the relationship, you establish the culture, and the work becomes extremely easy.
Well, the industry, as you said, is very unique. People don't leave. They're there 20 years, they're there 30 years. They're not looking for other jobs. They love what they're doing, and it's a very rare commodity to find that.
The staff that work at ACLD, or even in our industry in general, have a calling, and they respond to that calling by making a difference in people's lives. Being part of that is self-fulfilling. We all know in the industry, you're not making millions of dollars. You're making minimum wage, if not a little bit more than that, as a direct support professional. and you do it for the secondary gains. You do it from the camaraderie that you develop with your peers. You do it for the relationships that you develop with the people that you support. And we are truly blessed at ACLD that we have a lot of dedicated staff that really adhere to this calling. They make a difference, and without them, the organization is nothing.
Tell me about the history of ACLD and what you guys do.
Well, ACLD has been around for over 60 years, and we provide services for people with developmental disabilities and intellectual disabilities, whether that be through our 2 preschools that we have that support over 150 to 170 children that are ages of 3 to 5, to our adult programs, where that be in a day program or in a residential setting. We also provide a lot of family support services. We provide what you call community hab, and that's staff going into people's homes in the community and taking people out to experience things like you or me would experience. We also provide respite services for families that need a break that are in the community. We also have a very large supportive employment program, and that's one of the programs that I'm most proud of, is really engaging individuals in the workforce, which should always be at the forefront of every organization. That our individuals, regardless of their disability, have the same wants and the same needs like you or I. And our supportive employment program that helps people get jobs, that helps people maintain jobs, that they can collect a paycheck to supplement their income, has been a huge success. And it's something that I know we want to continue to expand on. Just like all of our services, it's never enough. And if you settle for that, then you really shouldn't be in the field.
Well, what happened with the supported employment during the COVID period?
So during the pandemic, a lot of the employers themselves shut down.
Right.
So individuals, whether stayed in their residential homes if they lived with the agency or in the community. We did have some employers that continued to work, and we continued to provide the services for those individuals. But for the most part, many of the employers shut things down. So just like with the day program, when we shut down the day programs, we still followed up on a daily basis with those individuals and their families. We did the same thing with the people that are in our supportive employment vocational program.
Now, what percentage is back right now?
Right now, I would say about 65 to 70% of the people are back to work.
Oh, that's great.
Yep. We've been very, very fortunate that we at ACLD itself employs over 50 individuals.
Oh, really?
Yes,
Wow.
in different various, whether that be administrative supports. We have people working in our human resource department, in our financial department. We provide, like I said, cleaning services through our cleaning business that clean our buildings and our schools and our clinics. And we have a lot of, I have an administrative assistant. Her name is Toby, and she's fantastic. And she works in our office, and she's been working through when we started bringing people back in.
Oh, nice. So you have 50 people that work with you. How many total that are in your program, supported employment?
We provide services for over 260 individuals all over Nassau and Suffolk County in various stages of employment. Over 165 of them are gainfully employed in Monday through Friday or weekend type business jobs. And we have a lot of people that are in the process that are getting evaluations. We provide services for a lot of people in greenhouses and things like that. But when they were shut down, we had to stop, providing those services. But we're always looking to continue to expand our program because it definitely meets a need that's out there, and it's a vision that OPWDD and all providers want to do is gainful employment for people with developmental disabilities.
So most of the people that are in the supported employment, are they from your homes?
No, most of them are from the community, whether living in a regular community residence with a family or living in an outside agency. We have a lot of people that live in other agencies' residential program that we provide supportive employment to. And then, of course, there's a big contingent of people that live with us that we provide supportive employment to as well.
So you have people that go out to try to find employers or companies that'll hire them, right?
Yeah, we have job developers that go out and are the first line of defense in reference to investigating if this is a potential employment opportunity for somebody. Once that job developer goes out and finds a potential job, they then broker the deal with the individual themselves and the employer. And once the person gets the job, then a job coach takes over and provides them with support once a week, twice a week, whatever they feel necessary initially to help them. And then they become the liaison between the employer and the individual that's working.
And they go visit them at work and make sure everything's okay.
They visit them at work and they document it and they chart that. And that's some of the reimbursement that we get for the services that we provide by that documentation.
So let's talk about the preschools. They opened this week, right? How did that go?
Yes, we opened up our preschools on Tuesday, and we had a very successful week. Out of 139 registered students right now, we're a little bit down on enrollment based on the school districts and sending us evaluations, but we anticipate getting back up to our normal enrollment. 85% of the people came to the school. We did offer an option for remote learning, and there was a small contingent of people that wanted to do that remotely, but most of the people came in and got live instruction as well as live related services from a PT, OT, or speech perspective for individuals that are 3 to 5 years old.
And how were the kids when they got dropped off for the first day? Was it tough for everybody?
I tend to think of it as like riding a bike. So once they came back into the environment, yes, there was a little bit of anxiety.
Well, the parents couldn't go into the school, which was different. They couldn't walk around.
And most of our children were dropped off via the bus companies. We were able to work with the bus companies through the districts and stagger the bus drop-offs. So we would have less kids on the bus at a time. So we did have a large contingent of children that came off the bus. They came in wearing masks. For those who tolerated it to the best of their ability. And most of our children, did, and kudos goes out to them. They did a great job. We have provided full PPE equipment for all of our teachers and our paras and our teacher aides and our one-to-one aides. But it is a little bit of a different environment. You need to be cognizant of the spacing of the children. You need to be cognizant of the area. You need to constantly be aware of the cleanliness of the rooms. I like to say, it took a pandemic for everybody to wash their hands all the time.
Right.
It's little things like that you take for granted. Well, when you have a 3 or a 4 or a 5-year-old, wiping down those desks and wiping down the things becomes almost a full-time job that's outside of teaching them the curriculum. So, but they have done a fantastic job, and we are going to continue to look to expand and, get back to hopefully what everyone considers some sense of normalcy with the school year.
I just hope so quickly. But tell me about the crisis center that you did.
So one of the things that we did when we started to have people come down with the virus in our residential program is we thought we have a large day program on our campus in Bethpage that obviously was closed because of the pandemic. Right. There's 13 different rooms within that day program. It's a large program. It's about 150 people it supports. So within that building, we have a full kitchen. We have multiple bathrooms and a couple of showers. So one of the things that we talked about internally was, how can we stop or slow down the spread of the virus? So we worked in conjunction with our local DDRO and OPWDD and requested and did a proposal to turn that day program into a respite center. We were the only a nonprofit organization provider that did that in Suffolk or in Nassau County at the time. We did get some support from the state with additional funding. Funding is never enough, and we still lost about $300,000 when all said and done in running it. But what we did was anybody that came down with any symptoms, we treated as them having the virus. So what we did was we moved people from our homes into the crisis center, and we set up the crisis center with hospital beds and regular beds and TVs and air purifiers and a full kitchen, and we staffed it 3 shifts, and we had just separate cooks.
You had your own hospital.
Full PPEs, round-the-clock nursing and doctors that were able to walk through to make sure that everybody was okay. And I truly believe that by taking the people that showed signs and symptoms out of our residential program and bringing them to the crisis center, it significantly slowed down the spread and almost eliminated the virus from really running throughout our program. We had the program opened up for about 3.5 weeks, and after 3.5 weeks, and this is in the height of the pandemic, we had no cases.
Wow.
In our homes, and the people that were in the center got better. So a combination of changing the parameters around in the homes and how we did it, the PPEs, the additional trainings that we provided for the staff via our Litmos system, via the computer, or hands-on that we can via Zoom meetings and things like that. The crisis center, we really stopped the spread relatively quickly, in my estimation, at ACLD. We're not perfect. We had our issues. We had people that got very, very sick. We lost a number of people, unfortunately. We had staff that got sick. But without that crisis center and without the foresight of our nursing director and the buy-in of all the programs and all the staff to really roll up their sleeves and say, hey, this is something serious, we would have been far worse off.
It's amazing that you had this foresight. I didn't hear about anyone else at any other agency having it like this. Congratulations to that nurse. She's amazing. She really is. You know, we can't even say that it happened in our government that way, but here, you know, it's terrific. Let's talk about the preschools a little bit. What happens after the preschools? Where do they go? Are there schools for them, or do you try to get them back mainstream?
Yeah, so what happens is, since we only have a preschool, the next phase after preschool would be an elementary school, a regular, K through, 9, then you go to high school, whatever it is. They're called 853 schools, and they're provider organizations that run 853 schools. So these individuals that would graduate and reaching up ceremonies from the preschool would go to either an 853 school or back into the school district, into a mainstream, based on what their capabilities are.
But that's your goal, is to make sure that as many people can get mainstreamed as you can.
Absolutely. Our goal is to try to educate them based on the curriculums that are sent out from the state education department, that we meet all the necessary rules and regulations that the normal schools, quote unquote, have. And that's what the goal is. The goal is to try to mainstream them to the best of our ability. And in the event that they're done with the 853 school, then they come back to us as adults to go to our adult day program. And we have a lot of people that we provided preschool services for in the past that now are part of our adult day program. And we have people that actually are employed with us that actually started in our preschool program.
That's amazing. It's your family. It's the ACLD family. They want to come right back to you.
That's what our goal is, to try to keep them within the family. Absolutely.
So you have, you're celebrating your 25th year in this field after reading about 20 years at one agency and almost 5 years here. 25 years, and you just got an award, the Executive Circle Award, last month, which I saw was all the CEOs, and you were up with the best of them, as I saw in that virtual event. How does that feel?
It was a nice honor from the Long Island Business News to all my fellow recipients out there. It's a congratulate them, and it's a great honor for all of them as well. I do this not for the accolades. I do this because this is what my passion is, and this is what I felt that I'm meant to do and put on this earth to do. However, when you do get a nice award and you do, get your face in the paper and you get interviewed and things like that, there are always nice things, and it's great for your own, personal and professional gains, themselves as well. So it was a really good honor, and I felt very blessed to be honored with my fellow honorees, and it was a really nice experience. And hopefully there'll be more to come.
I'm sure there will be. Tell me about the events that you didn't have this year, that you're planning them for next year, though, right?
We hold an annual bowling event every year. We hold an annual golf outing, and we hold a gala, which is a dinner dance at the Garden City Hotel every year. So we postponed those 3 events. We have every intention to resume those events next year. Right before the pandemic started, we actually had a Poker for Our Purpose event. We had a poker night.
Oh, did you? How was that?
And that went really, really well, and we raised a nice amount of money. And that event itself, all the proceeds for that event and the money raised go to resident vacation funds. So people that may be able to go on vacation in a house, but one of or two of them don't have the necessary money, we're able to provide them with the necessary money through that fundraising effort for a Poker for a Purpose. So we had that in February at the Carlton, and it was a very successful event. It's a fun event. This is our second year we've done it, and we plan on continuing to do it. It's a little bit different. I think you have to diverse your fundraising events a little bit. Golf outings are great. I'm a big golfer, so I like to play golf. So that's always a fun event.
We'll play together.
Me.
I play every weekend, every Saturday and Sunday.
The gala is always a nice event, and you get a lot of people. But you have to be diverse. A couple of years ago, we started doing a bowling event. And the bowling event's nice because it involves a lot of our individuals that live with us, as well as certain vendors and certain people that are friendly with the agency.
It's a different type of an event. It's more of a family event also. So
you got to look to structure your events to different audiences.
Yeah.
The people that joined us for the poker event are a total different audience than people that would be at the golf outing.
Good.
Or at a bowling alley, or even at the gala. So you have to diverse yourself.
Expand your base.
You have to expand it, and you have to come up with different ideas, just like the virtual events as well. It brings in different people as well. Because you know what? You can't always just go to the same people.
No, you can't. You can't.
The money will dry up.
It will. Rob, I just want to thank you for taking the time to come out on the show today. It has been great. And having the foresight that you guys did, as they say, probably saved a lot of lives. Probably did, with the crisis center and everything else. Thank you for being on. This is Ron Gold from Marketing Works, and the show is called The Nonprofit Voice.
The views and opinions expressed on this program are not necessarily those of this station, JVC Broadcasting Management, or its sponsors.